С удовольствием передаю слово следующему спикеру, Стивену Манчини, основателю Соуэто Fashion Week. Расскажите, как южноафриканские дизайнеры используют культурные и исторические особенности региона в своих коллекциях?
Thank you very much, moderator, and so I thank everybody for coming out tonight, this morning. This is a great turnout, and thank you to the other panelists for joining this panel. The South African heritage and culture, the designers we've seen, they use a lot of, we have about 11 tribes. Each tribe has got a fabric, and they use those fabrics to create the outfits they create. We have artisans, we do have people who do beadwork. So depending on the culture that a designer may come, even if they don't come from the culture, but if it inspires the designer, designers tend to adopt that and make it work for them if they manage to build a market for it. It's a very niche market, not everybody wants to wear cultural every day. Mainly it's for events, it's for special occasions, but there are people who wear it traditionally because of the work that they do. So it depends on when the designer does the market research on their market and then build on that. So this goes back to the tribe. Each tribe has got its own fabric, and the fabric is the one that determines the direction the designer takes.
Как вы видите в дальнейшем позиционирование южноафриканских дизайнеров на мировом рынке?
Can you just repeat that?
А как вы планируете создавать позиционирование на мировом фэшн-рынке?
Well, the best positioning for designers and any fashion house from South Africa would be taking on a cultural position, because everybody wears clothes around the world and it's already out there. We've had a situation where bigger fashion houses appropriate South African culture. So the only way for South African brands, and what we've seen is them creating their own fabric, and when they do that, they position themselves as unique as brands. That's what has been happening to avoid replica and seeing brands overseas. They just see it online and they just copy and paste or find ways to appropriate our materials. They're very expensive though, hence not every designer in South Africa is able to take that position. It will have to be a plan and a vision that's carried out over time and over years. That's the strongest position. We've got the Lesotho fabrics, the Shweshwe, the Zulus. So all these fabrics, when they're positioned very well by certain designers, they create their own niche market, which is then able to be globalized. And that puts them in a very strong position internationally. It avoids a situation whereby you just buy fabric that we know that our biggest manufacturer of fabric is China, and you see that a lot in South Africa, and then the only thing that you have is style. Style can be appropriated over time. So your best bet is style plus fabric that then positions you very strongly.
Вы упомянули культурную апроприацию. Расскажите, где грань между вдохновением и культурной апроприацией?
Well, appropriation would be, because we do have tribes that focus on keeping the richness of the heritage. If you're going to go to maybe a South African village and then you're inspired, something of that inspiration is to go back to that tribe or that the inspiration, where you got the inspiration from. But when you appropriate, you just simply sit online or you go to that village and then you are inspired, but then you don't see the need to give back to that society. You just take it with you. You globalize it because you have the resources, you have the finances, you have the position to do so. So it's more like a David and Goliath situation, and the smaller brands can't stand a chance when that happens. So the best position for a global brand would be to give back to that community. If you come to South Africa, you're inspired by the Soweto prints, then if you've managed to find a group who are doing that, maybe reinvest in that and let them help you to manufacture that and globalize it, instead of doing it in your home or internationally, and you do it on your own, and you sell the culture that the culture that inspired you to do the outfits. I think that's the border.
Как Соуэто Fashion Week влияет на модную сцену Южной Африки и поддерживает молодых дизайнеров?
Soweto Fashion Week is one of the biggest fashion platforms on the African continent and in South Africa. We inspire designers through promotion. What we offer to them is promotion and potential access to market. South Africa is actually the biggest economy on the African continent. So that positions us to be able to do a lot of things in terms of promoting designers and building our fashion industry. We have access to 3D. We have access to seeing designers create 3D clothing in South Africa. We've got our social media is quite big, and that helps us through influencers to promote designers. So by doing that on a consistent basis, brands tend to grow over time. It's not an overnight success. Fashion is a very, especially local markets, it's a very strange market in terms of preference of the clients, preference of fashion houses, all of those things coming together, and then you as a fashion brand growing yourself from one designer to a fashion house. That's a process. And as fashion platforms, we need to consistently be there for the brands. And when the younger ones see that, they also get inspired to grow. Even now, we've brought in a South African designer, but he's an emerging designer. So he's been inspired by this globalization that we've done through this partnership with Russia, through the BRICS. So that's our way forward. We're looking at potentially globalizing our designers from a local level to a global level.
Инфлюенсеры очень важная часть модного бизнеса, они несут идею дизайнера, коллекции. Как в вашем регионе работают с инфлюенсерами в рамках недели моды?
Influencers, I guess the name itself is quite speaking. They influence brands, they influence people, they influence, especially they are influencers that focus on fashion, and that helps a lot because they're already working with other fashion brands. So when other people in fashion look at them and say, oh, so this one is doing this now, and they actually have access to even potential sponsors, and those sponsors look at that and say, oh, our person is doing Fashion Week, how can we get involved in Fashion Week? So those elements, little elements that influencers bring, the beautiful thing is that most influencers have positioned themselves for a particular market. So there are those in fashion, there are those in crafts and art, there are all those who are influencers in music. So it makes things a lot easier. So when you select an influencer, you look at whether they have an interest, an invested interest in the fashion space, and that helps in terms of the collaboration, the partnership with the influencer.